After returning from a week-long international trip, I was left stunned when my mother-in-law, Carol, called with an oddly triumphant tone. She mentioned a $40,000 windfall that we had apparently saved. I was confused. As a freelance jewelry designer, I keep a tight hold on my finances, and I certainly hadn't set aside that kind of money. Carol, however, casually explained that she had taken it from our sideboard drawer money that Owen apparently gave her. I was left speechless. Where did the $40,000 come from, and why did she think it was hers to take? After returning from a week-long international trip, I was taken aback when my mother-in-law, Carol, called. There was an unusual tone of triumph in her voice, and she mentioned something about a $40,000 windfall that we had apparently saved. I was confused. As a freelance jewelry designer, I do have a savings account for emergencies, but I certainly hadn't stashed away that kind of money recently. Plus, I always kept my bank card with me, and no one else had access to withdraw such a large amount. Carol, seemingly oblivious to my confusion, casually said, "He gave it to me, so I took it from the sideboard drawer. You guys are doing well, so it's fine." I was speechless. Before I could ask for clarification, she quickly thanked me, hinted at relying on me for financial support in the future, and abruptly hung up. I was left in a daze. What money was she talking about? Where had the $40,000 come from, or where had it gone? When Owen came home later, he cleared up the misunderstanding. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as I feared, but I couldn't shake off the strange feeling that lingered from the conversation. A month later, things took a frustrating turn. Carol began bombarding me with phone calls. At first, I thought nothing of it, figuring it wasn't urgent. But when I saw that I had over 55 missed calls, I knew I couldn't ignore her any longer. I reluctantly picked up the phone, and the moment I did, Carol's voice erupted in anger. She accused me of ignoring her and acted like she was the victim. She made it clear she believed I had wronged her. But from my perspective, it was the result of her own assumptions. Let me provide some background. My name is Harper, and I'm a 37-year-old freelance jewelry designer. I love my work, but it keeps me extremely busy. My husband, Owen, and I are also trying to start a family, which only adds to the overwhelm of balancing my growing business with personal life. Owen used to work a stable corporate job, but a few years ago, as my business started to take off, he decided to leave his position and join me full-time. His skills and management have been invaluable in helping our business flourish. In the early days of our marriage, my jewelry gigs were sporadic, and we relied on Owen's steady paycheck. But as my designs gained recognition, our roles shifted. Owen now helps me manage everything from contracts to operations. We've even secured partnerships with prestigious international brands, transforming our lives but also bringing new challenges. One of those challenges is dealing with Owen's mother, Carol. She lives alone in the family home and often views our lifestyle through a distorted lens. To her, our hard work and professional obligations look like indulgent luxury. "You two are always living so lavishly. I'm jealous," she often says, misunderstanding the nature of our expenses. For example, as part of my job, I frequently attend high-end product launches and networking dinners with executives. Carol, however, sees these events as leisure outings rather than work obligations. Her jealousy often leads to financial requests. Once she said, "I'm planning to throw a party for my friends soon. Can you give me some money for it?" While it might seem like we could afford such things easily, the reality is that maintaining our business image involves significant costs, and our budget is tightly managed. Despite explaining this to Carol repeatedly, her requests only became more persistent. She would often say things like, "You're always dressed so beautifully and eating at fancy places. I envy you." Her sarcasm and jealousy made it clear she didn't understand the sacrifices behind our apparent success. While I often refused her requests, Tom took a different approach. "If giving her a little money keeps her quiet, then it's worth it," he'd argue. For him, it was easier to offer small financial help to maintain peace, rather than deal with the disruptions or complaints might cause. Unfortunately, this approach only encouraged Carol. Her demands started to escalate over time, and her perception of our financial situation became more unrealistic. Living this way has been a balancing act, not just with our careers, but also with managing family dynamics. While Owen and I work hard to build a successful business and prepare for the future, Carol seems to see us as an endless source of financial support. Little did I know her assumptions would soon lead to even bigger misunderstandings. Recently, Carol expressed a desire for a new dress to wear to an upcoming gathering. She even came over to our place to pester Owen about it. "Wouldn't a two-piece suit work instead?" Owen suggested, trying to steer her towards something more practical. But Carol wasn't having it. She argued that while there might be cheaper options, what she wanted was a high-end outfit. I tried to explain that her choice was unnecessarily expensive, but she immediately countered, saying, "It's a fancy party. I can't be the only one there in old clothes." To make matters worse, she insisted she needed a matching handbag to go with the outfit, leaving Owen and me completely exasperated. To help manage her frequent requests, Owen had previously set up a credit card in Carol's name for her personal expenses. Initially, she went overboard with her spending, and Owen had to caution her about sticking to reasonable limits. He asked her to let us know before making significant purchases, but Carol continued her pattern of extravagant spending as if the card had no limits. One day, Carol proudly told us, "I discovered an exquisite ring and couldn't resist buying it, but I regret not informing you beforehand. The bill was quite high." This left Owen and me in a tough spot. Her unrestrained spending was becoming unsustainable for us. "If this continues, maybe it's best to take back the card," I suggested to Owen. Even though the card was in Carol's name, Owen was responsible for paying the bills. Carol seemed to view the card as a bottomless resource, not understanding that every purchase had to be paid for out of our pockets. Recognizing the need for better control, Owen decided to set a spending limit on her card to curb her expenses. This did not sit well with Carol. One day, she stormed into our house, visibly upset. "What the heck is going on? I couldn't pay for my shopping yesterday. Why did you limit my card?" she demanded. We explained that her excessive spending was putting a strain on our finances and setting a limit was necessary to manage it. "But it's still enough for your needs, right?" Owen asked, trying to maintain peace. Carol was unimpressed. "You two still dress up, go to fancy places, and spend money on all sorts of things. How is what I'm doing any different?" she argued. She saw our professional obligations, like attending product launches and high-profile events, as nothing more than fun and leisure. "It's part of our job, Carol," I tried to explain. "If that's a job, then what I'm doing isn't any different," she snapped. "It's unfair that you two get to enjoy all the fun while I'm left behind." Her misunderstanding of our work only made the situation more frustrating. Although our business often required attending glamorous events, these weren't mere social outings. They were vital for building relationships and maintaining our professional image. Despite Carol's occasional protests, we decided to set a limit on her credit card, which helped ease tensions for a while. She still visited and complained to Owen about feeling left out, but things seemed more manageable overall. As the year progressed, an exciting opportunity arrived that could change the trajectory of my career. A prominent foreign brand reached out with a proposal to expand our business by relocating overseas. The prospect was exhilarating. It could elevate my career as a jewelry designer and potentially position me as one of the top designers in the industry. Owen, always supportive and forward-thinking, encouraged me to seize the opportunity. "This is a chance we can't pass up," he said enthusiastically. We both agreed that moving abroad was the best decision for our business and our future. However, one concern loomed over our excitement: Carol. Given her past behavior, we feared she would insist on coming with us. The thought of managing her expectations while adjusting to life in a new country seemed overwhelming. When we finally broke the news to her that we were planning to move overseas, her reaction was exactly what we had anticipated. "I want to come too," she exclaimed, assuming our move was simply an extended vacation. Owen tried to explain gently, "We're moving for work, Carol. It won't be like a holiday." But Carol, ever skeptical, shot back, "You're trying to trick me. You plan to live more lavishly there, and you don't want me to see it." Her response left us speechless. As excited as we were about this new chapter, it was clear that managing Carol's unrealistic expectations would be a significant challenge. Carol continued to insist we were lying about our intentions to move. "You're not moving there permanently," she declared. "You'll come back after your work is done." I tried to reassure her. "That's true, we're not staying forever. We'll return after our project is finished," hoping to ease her anxiety. But Carol wasn't buying it. "You're just saying that to calm me down. You're planning to leave me behind, aren't you?" she snapped, her voice dripping with suspicion. Owen and I were exhausted from the endless back and forth, so he suggested a compromise. "Okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we pay for a week-long trip for you instead?" Carol's demeanor shifted instantly. "Really? Are you sure?" she asked, her face lighting up. "We'll cover your flight and hotel, but you'll have to manage your other expenses," Owen clarified. Carol seemed satisfied with the arrangement, and for a brief moment, we thought the issue was settled. But peace was short-lived. A few days later, while Owen was busy finalizing arrangements for the move, Carol showed up unannounced. "Hey, Harper, I've been thinking. I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money for that?" she asked, her eyes hopeful. "What about the card Owen gave you?" I asked, knowing she already had a credit card for personal expenses. Her face fell. "Well, Owen took it away from me the other day," she confessed. It turned out that Owen had confiscated the card after Carol had overspent once again. With the added complication of international currency rates, he had decided it was best to cut off her access altogether. "I don't have that kind of money on hand," I told her firmly. "I can't give you anything without Owen's approval." "Can you ask him?" she insisted, frustration building in her voice. "It's no use asking him. That's why I'm coming to you," she pressed, raising her voice. But I held my ground. Despite her persistence, I couldn't give her what she wanted. Eventually, Carol went on her 12-day trip abroad. I assumed Owen had somehow managed to fund it, although he hadn't shared the details with me. When she returned, she called me, her voice brimming with excitement. "I'm back! It was amazing! I had so much fun!" she gushed, sharing stories of sightseeing and fancy dinners. Without me even asking, she continued, "Oh, and I bought so many souvenirs that I couldn't fit them in my suitcase. I had them shipped here instead. I can't wait for them to arrive." "That's nice," I replied, keeping my tone neutral despite feeling overwhelmed by her enthusiasm. "Thanks to the money you saved up, I had a blast," she exclaimed, catching me off guard. "Saved up money? What are you talking about?" I asked, alarmed. I had no recollection of setting aside money for her. "I found it in the sideboard drawer in your house," she replied casually. "It was $40,000. I took it and used it." Her words left me stunned. Why would such a large amount of cash be stashed in a drawer? And how could she think it was okay to take it? Trying to stay calm, I said, "Carol, taking money from our house without permission is theft, even if you're family. Do you understand how serious this is?" Carol shrugged off my words. "That's why I'm telling you now. I used it. Consider it a post-fact report," she said unapologetically. "I have no idea where this money came from, but if you took it and spent it without telling anyone, that's a crime," I explained. "And if Owen had set it aside for something important, it's even worse." Carol didn't seem fazed. "You two live so extravagantly. Why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your parent. It's not a big deal, right?" she rationalized, her tone filled with entitlement. "It's one thing to ask for help," I replied, still in disbelief. "But taking money without asking is not okay. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, but I'll have to discuss this with Owen when he gets back." Carol, undeterred, said confidently, "Owen will understand. After all, I'm his mother, and $40,000 isn't much to him." That evening, when Owen returned home, he seemed troubled. "Harper, do you know about the money I left in the sideboard drawer?" he asked urgently. "What money?" I asked, already suspecting the worst. 15 days ago, I withdrew $40,000 from the bank for an urgent payment, but now it's gone. Keeping such a large sum in the drawer was careless, but I needed it readily available for a transaction. Do you know anything about it? It all clicked. Carol's earlier call, her stories about the trip, and her casual mention of taking money. It was Owen's money she had spent. "Owen," I said. "Carol called me today to thank us for $40,000 and said she had a great time on her trip. I didn't understand what she meant until now." Owen's expression shifted from confusion to frustration as he realized what had happened. "She took the money?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. The situation had escalated far beyond the usual family drama, and we both knew it wasn't going to be easy to resolve. I sat down, trying to make sense of everything that had just unfolded. Owen had told me the $40,000 Carol had taken was his, but I still couldn't wrap my head around why it was withdrawn in cash. "Owen, why did you withdraw such a large sum of cash? We usually handle payments through bank transfers, especially for the business. Why the sudden shift to cash?" I asked, still confused by the situation. Owen let out a weary sigh, clearly drained. After I reduced the limit on Carol's credit card, she started secretly borrowing money from multiple sources: consumer finance cards, credit cards, and even one she opened without telling us. When I found out how much debt she'd racked up, I took all her cards away to stop her from spiraling further. I withdrew the cash to pay off her debts directly, bypassing the bank so our business accounts wouldn't get affected. I wanted to handle it quietly, especially since we're moving abroad and won't be able to manage things for her anymore, he explained. He paused, looking conflicted. I intended for this to be a way of wrapping things up before we left, but Carol didn't use the money for that. She blew it all on her trip. Hearing this, a wave of anger and frustration hit me. Owen's intentions had been good. He was trying to help Carol get back on track, but her actions had completely undermined his efforts. As the weeks went by, we focused on preparing for our overseas move, but Carol's calls grew more frequent and impossible to ignore. When I finally answered one of her calls, I could hear the desperation in her voice. "Why haven't you been answering me? I've tried so many times," she cried, her voice quivering. "I'm sorry, Carol. I've been busy with packing for the move. What's going on?" I tried to stay calm, unsure of what to expect. "It's everything, Harper. They're asking for payments every day. It's too much," she confessed, almost breaking down. "Have you contacted Owen about this?" I asked, hoping she'd gone to him first. "He's blocking me. I can't get through to him at all. Harper, you're my only hope now. Please help me," she pleaded. In that moment, I realized how deep Carol's financial mess had gotten. With Owen refusing to engage and cutting off her access to money, she was turning to me as her last hope. The situation was more tangled than I had imagined. When Owen returned home, I filled him in on Carol's desperate pleas. He listened quietly, his face a mix of exhaustion and resignation. "I tried to sort this out before we left, Harper, but she wasted the chance I gave her. That money was meant to clear her debts, and instead, she used it for a luxury vacation. What else am I supposed to do?" His frustration was palpable, but I still felt uneasy about cutting her off completely. With our business expansion underway and our financial resources already stretched thin, we couldn't afford to take on Carol's burden, especially after she had misused the money we had given her. Despite the guilt that lingered, I followed Owen's lead and blocked her number, focusing on our move. But then, just as the chaos of packing seemed endless, another shocking piece of news reached us. Carol had sold her house, the family home where Owen had grown up, in an attempt to manage her mounting debts. But even after selling the property, the money wasn't enough to cover everything she owed. The loss of the house was a devastating blow. The reality that the family home was gone felt like another weight on Owen's shoulders. This entire situation had spiraled far beyond what either of us had expected, and it was becoming clear that we couldn't keep trying to fix things for Carol anymore. "Owen, the family home is gone. Are you okay with that?" I asked, sensing the sadness he was trying to mask. He shook his head, his voice tinged with sorrow. "How can I be okay with it? That house was where I grew up, where so many memories were made, but there's nothing we can do now. It's her choice, and we're not in a position to help anymore." Losing the house felt like losing a piece of Owen's childhood, a profound and irreversible loss. It was heartbreaking to see him wrestle with these emotions while knowing there was no way to salvage the situation. The house, a symbol of stability and family, was gone, and with it, a part of Carol's ability to recover from her financial chaos. As we prepared to leave for our new life overseas, the weight of what had transpired lingered heavily. Carol's actions had strained our relationships, depleted resources, and left Owen with the painful realization that he could no longer shield his mother from the consequences of her own choices. The move promised a fresh start, but it was bittersweet, knowing we were leaving behind not just our old life but also unresolved family turmoil. The loss of a family home is a profound experience, one I had endured earlier in life when my parents' house was taken away. Watching Owen go through a similar ordeal brought back those emotions, but his situation felt even more complicated. Unlike my past, Owen wasn't just losing the physical place where his earliest memories were formed, he was losing a deep emotional sanctuary. To make it harder, his mother Carol was still alive, a painful reminder of the circumstances that led to this loss. Describing the loss of a family home is difficult, as it's more than just a structure made of bricks and wood. It's about the sense of security and the comfort of knowing there's always a place to return to a constant amidst life's inevitable changes. The house becomes a repository of memories, history, and identity, something that Owen could no longer hold on to. The absence of this familiar anchor weighed heavily on both of us as we prepared to step into a new chapter of our lives, far away in a different country. Carol, now living in a modest apartment, faced a harsh new reality. Her days were consumed by managing mounting debts and working part-time just to get by. For someone her age, finding steady work was not only difficult, but often exhausting and unfulfilling. The life she now led was a stark contrast to the reckless spending and financial freedom she had once enjoyed. While I couldn't ignore the sympathy I felt for her, I also understood that her current predicament was a direct result of her own poor financial choices. Life has a way of teaching us hard lessons, and Carol was no exception. Her situation served as a cautionary tale, a reminder that financial responsibility is essential at any stage of life. No matter how comfortable things may seem, without restraint and planning, everything could unravel. Meanwhile, our new life abroad was unfolding in ways we hadn't anticipated. Our move had propelled our business into the international spotlight, far surpassing anything we could have imagined. Inquiries and offers flooded in from all corners of the globe. Every email, every call, brought new possibilities for expansion and collaboration, but also required more of our time and focus. The rush of success was undeniable, but it consumed every aspect of our lives. The days bled into nights as we navigated time zones, dealt with cultural differences, and tackled a constant barrage of tasks to capitalize on this golden opportunity. Yet, in all this excitement, our personal lives seemed to take a back seat. The dream of expanding our family, something Owen and I had talked about for years, felt increasingly distant. We told ourselves that we would revisit it once things settled down, but deep down, we both knew the demands of our business would not ease anytime soon. Owen, in particular, felt the strain of balancing his roles as a partner in life and business. He was constantly juggling logistics, client management, and a myriad of other responsibilities. We found ourselves asking the same question over and over. How do we make room for the life we want while managing the pressures of the life we've built? Sometimes, I would stand by the window of our apartment, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape. The neon lights stretched into the night sky, blending into the blur of our own hectic lives. This city, vibrant and relentless, had become our new home, yet it felt in stark contrast to the quiet, familiar streets we had left behind. The life we were building here was filled with promise, but also challenges we hadn't expected. It was thrilling, but overwhelming. Amid all the excitement and chaos of our new chapter, my thoughts often wandered back to Carol and the lessons her situation had taught us. Her financial recklessness and the consequences she faced were a sharp reminder of how our choices shape our future. Every decision we make, whether personal or professional, impacts not just our present, but also the legacy we leave behind. As I reflected on this, I realized the importance of finding balance. Our pursuit of success couldn't come at the cost of the relationships that truly mattered to us. While our business achievements brought us pride, they were not the sole markers of a meaningful life. Owen and I made a vow to approach this chapter with mindfulness, balancing our ambitions with our personal well-being. After all, true success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about the journey and the people we share it with. Is it worth all the sacrifices we've made for success if it costs us everything we once valued, including the relationships that should matter most? After months of escalating tension and Carol's continuous financial manipulation, Owen and I finally reached a breaking point. We tried to help her, but her reckless actions led to the loss of the family home, further straining our relationship with her. Now, in a new country with a thriving business, Owen and I are faced with a similar question. Can we maintain balance in our lives without losing ourselves to our ambitions? The pain of losing Carol's trust and seeing her struggle serves as a cautionary reminder of the consequences of our choices. From the perspective of personal responsibility, the situation with Carol has been a profound learning experience. Her financial recklessness not only affected her, but also reverberated through our family, leading to strained relationships and, ultimately, the loss of her home. While it's heartbreaking to see her facing the consequences, it's clear that Carol's choices were the driving force behind her downfall. This has led Owen and me to reassess our own actions. Our business is thriving, but at what cost? We must balance ambition with empathy and ensure that our success doesn't come at the expense of the relationships we've built. Is it possible to achieve our dreams without losing the things that truly matter, like family, love, and the integrity of our personal lives? How do you balance your professional ambitions with your personal relationships? Have you ever been in a situation where success came at a cost? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on our journey toward finding that balance.